What if everything you've ever seen, every star, every galaxy, every moment of your life, was never real? What if the universe itself is nothing more than a vast simulation, running on a code written by something beyond our comprehension? Tonight, we step into a question that could shatter reality itself. Are we living inside the ultimate illusion? From the moment humanity first looked up at the stars, we wondered about their reality. Ancient people thought the heavens were domes, painted by gods, a grand design crafted by unseen hands. Today, with our telescopes piercing billions of light years into the void, we believe we are closer to the truth. But perhaps we are not. Perhaps the truth hides beneath an even greater veil, that the entire cosmos is not a physical thing at all, but a construct, a simulation so advanced that even the deepest black hole and the brightest supernova are nothing more than lines of code. Imagine for a moment that you are a character inside a story, one so real that you do not even realize it's fiction. You breathe, you love, you suffer, and you die, all while believing your world is solid, permanent, undeniable. But outside the story, there is a reader, flipping through the pages, controlling the pace of your existence. What if that is us, a simulation, written and run by something we cannot perceive? Scientists have already begun whispering about this possibility. Some argue that if civilizations grow advanced enough, they will simulate entire universes, billions of them. The reasoning is simple. Once technology allows us to create detailed simulations, the number of simulated worlds would vastly outnumber real ones. And if that is true, then statistically, it is far more likely we are living in one of the simulations than in the single original universe. The math itself suggests that our reality may be artificial. But let's step deeper. If this universe is a simulation, what are its rules? We know that reality seems to operate by mathematics. The speed of light is a constant, time flows in one direction, and quantum particles behave like coded instructions running inside a cosmic computer. Think of quantum mechanics, particles that exist in multiple states until observed, as if waiting for a program to render their outcome. It is eerily similar to how video games load environments only when the player looks at them. Could it be that observation is not magic, but a line of code triggered by our awareness? Consider the limitations. Why is the speed of light a universal barrier? Why does nothing travel faster? Perhaps it is the maximum processing speed of the simulation, a cap on the frame rate of the cosmos. Why does empty space fluctuate with quantum foam, particles flickering in and out of existence? Perhaps they are background processes, computations too small to notice, yet always running. Even our sense of time could be nothing more than the refresh rate of reality, ticking forward frame by frame, smooth enough that we do not perceive the jumps. If this is true, then who are the architects? Who runs this simulation? Some imagine a race of beings so advanced they are indistinguishable from gods. Perhaps they created this universe to study the rise and fall of civilizations, to watch stars form, planets collide, and species evolve. Perhaps they are not gods at all, but scientists or even descendants of humanity itself, running ancestor simulations to study their own origins. If our distant future discovers the ability to simulate universes, then perhaps we are inside one of their creations, living lives that feel real, never knowing we are echoes of their curiosity. But if we are simulated, then what about meaning? Do our lives matter? Or are we nothing more than shadows on a screen, destined to vanish when the program ends? Maybe meaning is not diminished, is enhanced. For even inside a simulation, Love feels real, suffering feels sharp, and wonder feels infinite. Just because a dream is a dream does not mean it cannot move the dreamer. Now, imagine the boundaries of this simulation. If the universe is coded, does it have glitches? Moments where the system falters, where the rules bend, where reality flickers. Throughout history, humans have spoken of strange experiences, visions, déjà vu, unexplained anomalies. Could these be glimpses of the simulation's cracks, places where the code stutters? Perhaps black holes themselves are not natural phenomena at all, but storage points in the program, places where information is compressed, hidden, or rewritten. And what lies beyond the simulation? If our universe is artificial, then there is a true reality outside, one we cannot touch, cannot see, cannot even imagine. For us, it is unreachable, like the book outside the story, forever beyond the character's grasp. But if we are inside, then maybe those outside can observe us. Perhaps they are watching right now, studying the rise of humanity, noting our triumphs and failures. Maybe our wars and discoveries are nothing more than data points, collected for purposes we will never understand. This thought can be terrifying, but also humbling, for if we are simulated, then everything, the stars, the galaxies, the very fabric of space is art. It is not random. It is intentional. Every law of physics is chosen, every atom placed, every rule written. And within that, we find something remarkable. We exist. Not by accident, not by chance, but because someone, somewhere, pressed the button that allowed this simulation to begin. Now ask yourself, would you want to know, if you had the chance to break free of the illusion, to see the true reality beyond, would you choose it? Or would you prefer to remain inside, where love, pain, and wonder still feel real? Because perhaps that is the point of the simulation, not to reveal the truth, but to see how we live without it. What if death itself is not the end, but a transition? When the simulation shuts down one avatar, does the data vanish, or is it saved, transferred, repurposed? Could consciousness itself be code, uploaded and preserved, beyond the veil we call mortality? The simulation theory suggests a possibility, that we are not bound to flesh and bone, but to information. And information, once created, never truly disappears. It only changes form. So here we are, drifting through galaxies, staring into the abyss, wondering if the abyss is staring back or if it is simply rendering itself as we gaze into it. The greatest mystery of existence may not be what lies beyond the stars, but whether the stars themselves are real at all. The question remains, echoing endlessly through the minds of those who dare to ask, are we the first, original beings in the true universe, or are we shadows, echoes, characters in a story written by someone else? And if we are simulated, then perhaps the very act of asking the question is what the architects wanted. Maybe curiosity is the true code that drives us. For in the end, whether real or simulated, our search for meaning never stops. And maybe that is the most real thing of all. And in that existence, the question of purpose becomes unavoidable. Why would anyone or anything create a universe like this? Is it mere curiosity, a grand experiment in complexity, or an art form so vast that we cannot even begin to grasp its intention? Perhaps the simulation is designed not merely to observe, but to test. To test intelligence, resilience, morality, creativity, and curiosity itself. Every civilization that rises, every star that forms and dies, every choice made by conscious beings could be metrics, data points collected by unseen eyes. Perhaps the universe is not chaotic, as we have long assumed, but carefully monitored, with outcomes observed and logged, recorded in a ledger beyond our comprehension. Each life, then, is not trivial. Each moment has weight because the observers of this cosmic experiment are watching, and we, for all our fragility, are integral components of a process larger than our imagination can hold. Even time, which we assume flows naturally, may be an artifact of the program. Perhaps seconds, minutes, and centuries are not continuous, but discrete units of computation. Our perception of flow might be nothing more than the rendering speed of a universe. Each moment calculated, verified, and presented to us as a coherent narrative. In that sense, history itself might be a pre-rendered script, laid out like chapters of a book we are reading in real time. Wars, revolutions, discoveries, triumphs, and tragedies could all be encoded events, designed to test responses, to observe reactions, to see whether the characters within the simulation act according to expectations or deviate into the unexpected. And when deviations occur, the architects may take note, curious to see whether consciousness itself can generate surprises that even their code cannot predict. Consider human creativity. The ability to compose music, write literature, paint, or imagine what does not exist is perhaps one of the most remarkable anomalies in this simulated reality. Could it be that creativity itself is a window into the system? Every inspired thought, every idea that breaks the mold, could be a signal that the program is imperfect, that life within it has learned to transcend the boundaries set by its creators. When a scientist theorizes, when an artist envisions, when a philosopher questions, perhaps they are probing the edges of the code, sensing the architecture that underpins existence without fully comprehending it. These acts may be anomalies in the system, moments where the simulation reveals its flexibility, or perhaps where the simulated consciousness begins to awaken to its own artificiality. But what about randomness? We see it everywhere, in the fluttering of leaves, the roll of dice, the decay of radioactive particles. If this universe is programmed, then is randomness truly random, or merely calculated to appear so? Perhaps every chance event is a carefully weighted probability, designed to create the illusion of uncertainty while still keeping the simulation on track. What we perceive as free will might itself be a series of probabilities, constraints, carefully balanced so that decisions feel organic but remain within the bounds of the simulation's code. And yet, the illusion of choice is powerful because it allows the characters within the system to grow, to learn, to experience consequences that feel deeply personal, even if they are ultimately dictated by unseen algorithms. Even the concept of physical laws takes on a new dimension. Gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear forces, they may not be inherent to the universe itself, but parameters set by the simulation to maintain stability. The balance of these forces allows stars to burn, planets to form, and life to evolve. Alter the constants slightly, and existence as we know it collapses. Could it be that the fine-tuning we marvel at, the almost impossible alignment of forces that allows life, was intentional? A safeguard embedded in the code to ensure that the experiment could yield conscious observers like ourselves? If so, then the universe is not a cold accident of chance, but a carefully orchestrated system designed to achieve something profound: the emergence of beings capable of self-awareness, and awareness carries its own paradox. If we are conscious within a simulation, are our thoughts truly our own? If every sensation, every memory, every idea is processed through a framework written by unknown creators, then where does the self end and the code begin? Perhaps consciousness is both real and artificial, both independent and guided. We exist simultaneously as characters in a narrative and as thinkers with agency, blurring the lines between autonomy and design. And in that ambiguity lies beauty. Even if we are part of a program, the capacity to feel joy, sorrow, or love is genuine in experience, no less vivid or profound because it is coded. Reality may be constructed, but its impact is visceral, immediate, and undeniable. Consider the cosmic scale. The universe stretches billions of light years in every direction, filled with galaxies, nebulae, black holes, and supernova. In a simulated framework, perhaps these vast expanses are not mere matter and energy, but data calculations rendered to maintain consistency, complexity, and continuity. Perhaps cosmic events unfold according to rules set by the simulation, but with enough apparent randomness to convince the observers within that they are witnessing a natural cosmos. And yet, even within this artificial expanse, there is room for wonder. The light of distant stars reaches us across unimaginable distances, and though it may be part of the simulation, the experience of seeing it, feeling small beneath it, remains profoundly real. The sense of awe is not diminished by origin, it is amplified by recognition that even simulated reality can inspire consciousness to reflect on itself. And what of anomalies? Every system has imperfections, and the universe exhibits phenomena that defy full understanding. Dark matter, dark energy, quantum entanglement, could these be remnants of coding, placeholders, or features deliberately left opaque to the observers? Dark matter, for example, interacts with gravity but not light, hinting at a hidden structure in the system. Quantum entanglement, where particles affect each other instantaneously across vast distances, may indicate optimization shortcuts, ways the simulation maintains coherence across the cosmos without rendering every interaction in real time. Perhaps what we call mysteries are actually signs that the program has rules we cannot yet perceive, or that it operates on levels beyond human comprehension. Yet, even if the simulation is perfect, the architects may have built-in opportunities for discovery, moments designed to provoke reflection, curiosity, and self-awareness. The human drive to explore, to question, to reach for knowledge could itself be a feature embedded in the code. Curiosity, the urge to understand the universe, may not only serve our narrative, but also provide feedback to the creators. Every breakthrough, every philosophical insight, every leap in understanding could be data points collected to assess the progress of conscious beings within the system. In that sense, the act of questioning reality, of considering the possibility that the universe is simulated, is not merely idle speculation. It may be exactly the kind of event the architects intended to observe. And perhaps this is why we are compelled to gaze at the stars, to explore the smallest particles and the furthest galaxies. Perhaps the urge to understand, to probe the limits of knowledge, is encoded into us. A designed trait meant to ensure that awareness within the system can reach toward higher understanding, even if we are part of a program. The pursuit of knowledge gives our existence depth, meaning, and resonance. Each discovery, each moment of insight, becomes a connection between the observers and the observed, a bridge across the divide separating the architects from their creation. And so, as we navigate the complexities of existence, questioning what is real and what is simulated, we are participating in something extraordinary. Whether we are characters in a story, lines of code, or conscious beings in a simulated cosmos, our experiences, emotions, and reflections are genuine to us. The universe, whether constructed or authentic, has provided a stage for awareness to emerge, and in that awareness we find both our purpose and our freedom. For the act of thinking, of wondering, of dreaming, transcends the medium. It is the proof that we exist, and perhaps the very reason the simulation exists at all. The sky we see, the ground we tread, the emotions that surge through our veins, might all be part of an elaborate code, executed flawlessly so that we experience existence as undeniably real. From the dawn of humanity, we have looked to the heavens and asked what is real, what is eternal, what is divine. Ancient civilizations imagined the sky as a vast dome, decorated with the lights of gods or spirits. Today, with our telescopes peering into the farthest reaches of the cosmos, we believe we know more. Yet perhaps we see only the rendered surface, a projection of data carefully optimized to convince us of its authenticity. Consider your own life. Every thought, every sensation, every choice you have made, could it be the outcome of lines of code written by unseen architects? Scientists and philosophers have long speculated that if civilizations reach sufficient technological advancement, they would inevitably create simulations of entire universes. And if that is true, then the number of simulated realities would vastly outnumber the one original reality, meaning it is statistically far more likely that we exist inside a simulation than outside it. The implications are staggering. If all of existence is code, then what we perceive as natural laws, the speed of light, the behavior of particles, the flow of time, might simply be parameters set to maintain consistency. Quantum mechanics itself seems to whisper this possibility. Particles existing in multiple states until observed, as if the universe waits for consciousness to interact before committing reality to form. Perhaps our awareness is a trigger, prompting the program to render the world around us with perfect detail. Even the emptiness of space may conceal the machinery of creation. Quantum fluctuations, particles appearing and vanishing in the void, might be background processes running unnoticed, calculations necessary for the simulation but too minute to detect directly. Gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear forces, they may not be intrinsic, but constraints chosen by the architects to maintain stability, to allow complexity to emerge. Consider black holes, devouring matter and light alike. Could they be storage nodes, compression mechanisms, or even safeguards to keep information contained? Could the universe itself be a holographic projection, where every three-dimensional structure is encoded on a distant surface, and the reality we perceive is simply the projection of information? If so, then the cosmos is not only vast, but meticulously constructed. Every law and every constant purposefully designed to enable observers like us to arise and wonder at our own existence. And what of the architects themselves? Perhaps they are not gods, but scientists, curious minds, observing an experiment unfold. Perhaps they are distant descendants of humanity, simulating the past to understand their origins. Or perhaps they exist in a realm so alien that any attempt to comprehend them would be meaningless. They may study us silently, logging our triumphs and failures. Every war, every act of kindness, every innovation catalogued as data points. The very fact that we question our existence may be part of the simulation's design, a test to see if intelligence can recognize its own boundaries. Our curiosity, the desire to understand, might be encoded within us, a feature programmed into consciousness itself, allowing the observers to witness awareness, discovering awareness. Even anomalies, coincidences, and the strange phenomena of déjà vu could be moments when the program briefly falters, revealing the seams of its construction. In this context, creativity takes on a new significance. Every idea, every work of art, every scientific breakthrough may be a crack in the simulation, a glimpse of a consciousness that reaches beyond what was anticipated by its creators. Could inspiration itself be a sign that the program is imperfect, that minds within it can surprise the architects by producing novelty, beauty, and insight? Perhaps our longing to explore, to look beyond the horizon, to map the stars and question reality, is not only a human drive but a deliberate feature of the simulation, encouraging us to approach awareness and understanding with curiosity and courage. And yet, even in this orchestrated reality, the experiences we have are deeply real to us. Love, grief, awe, and wonder are not diminished by their origins. They are magnified by the recognition that something created this universe with such precision and intentionality that it allows consciousness to flourish. Time, too, may be an artifact of the program. The flow of seconds, minutes, centuries may not be continuous but a sequential rendering, a processing rhythm designed to maintain coherence. History itself might be pre-rendered in some aspects, with outcomes influenced by both the architecture and the emergent decisions of conscious beings. Every choice we make could be simultaneously free and preordained, a paradox of autonomy and structure. The boundaries of the simulation might extend beyond anything we can perceive, with dimensions and layers of reality hidden from view, revealing that our cosmos is merely one of many nested creations, perhaps infinite in number, each with its own observers and its own purpose. Yet, for all the possible manipulation and orchestration, consciousness remains profound. To exist within a simulation is not to diminish existence, but to highlight the miraculous capacity for awareness. We experience beauty, pain, love, curiosity, and insight. Even if we are lines of code, we are sentient lines, capable of wonder and reflection. Our questioning, our exploration, our drive to understand the cosmos may be exactly what gives the simulation meaning. The program may measure not just survival or complexity, but awareness itself, tracking how consciousness navigates a world designed to challenge, inspire, and test it. Perhaps the very act of questioning reality is the highest expression of the simulation, an acknowledgement that intelligence can transcend the boundaries of its code. And so we continue, floating through galaxies, observing stars being born and dying, feeling time pass, wondering if the passage itself is natural or rendered, aware that each moment might be a frame in a cosmic program. Every anomaly, from black holes to quantum entanglement, may be a reflection of the simulation's inner workings, revealing both its limitations and its grandeur. Perhaps the universe is constructed to allow wonder, to provoke reflection, to let beings like us ponder their own place within it. Our struggles, joys, and revelations could all be measured, logged, or simply appreciated by minds beyond our understanding. And in this vast, intricate dance of creation, the question remains, echoing endlessly across the void. Are we the architects of our destiny, or are we participants in a story written long before our consciousness emerged? Does the answer even matter when the awareness itself is real? The simulation, if it exists, is a mirror of possibility, a canvas upon which awareness can manifest, grow, and explore. Whether the stars are real, whether time flows naturally, whether matter itself is physical, The universe remains a stage for consciousness, and in that consciousness we find meaning, connection, and beauty. Perhaps the greatest secret of all is that even in a simulated universe, the capacity to question, to dream, to love, and to seek understanding is the one thing that cannot be coded, controlled, or constrained. It is the proof of life, the proof of awareness, and perhaps the very reason the simulation exists at all. Imagine, for a moment, that the heavens above are not cosmic fires, but rendered points of light, meticulously calculated to evoke awe and guide consciousness toward questions it cannot yet answer. The sky we see, the ground we tread, the air we breathe, the warmth of sunlight, the ache of grief, the surge of love, they could all be emergent phenomena of code. Lines of data executed flawlessly to convince us that we are real, that existence itself is authentic. From the dawn of humanity, we have looked upward and asked what is eternal, what is divine, what is real. Ancient peoples imagined the sky as a dome painted by gods, dotted with lights that told stories, while today, with telescopes peering billions of light years into the void, we still seek the same truths. Perhaps all we see, all we believe, is a projection, an elaborate rendering of a universe whose true nature lies hidden beyond our perception, from our own vantage. Every moment of consciousness may be both illusion and truth. The choices we make, the thoughts we ponder, the emotions we feel, could they be outcomes of complex algorithms designed to simulate life, to allow intelligence to emerge in a framework carefully calibrated to produce self-awareness? Some philosophers and scientists argue that if a civilization reaches sufficient technological maturity, it will inevitably create simulations of entire universes, and that the number of such simulated realities would far exceed the number of original, real universes. In this framework, the likelihood that we exist inside a simulation rather than in an unrendered, fundamental reality becomes staggering. This raises questions that chill and inspire simultaneously. If we are created, observed, and constrained by an architecture beyond comprehension, what does it mean to exist? Does meaning reside in authenticity, or is it found entirely in perception, in the ability to experience, to feel, to dream, regardless of origin? Every law of nature, every constant of physics, may itself be a parameter carefully chosen to sustain the conditions necessary for conscious life. The speed of light could be the processing limit of the simulation, the maximum frame rate at which reality renders events. Quantum particles, existing in multiple states until observed, may function like variables in a program, awaiting input from the observer to collapse into defined outcomes. Gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear forces, perhaps not intrinsic, but constraints established to maintain consistency. Black holes could be storage nodes, compressing information, hiding data, or functioning as safe zones in the simulation. Even time itself may be artificial, a sequential rendering of frames, perceived as smooth flow but in reality discrete calculations executed by some ineffable computational engine. What we call the laws of physics, then, might not be natural, they might be the rules of the system, carefully optimized for complexity, stability, and observation. And who, then, are the architects? Perhaps they are not gods, but scientists, or beings who evolve beyond our comprehension, observing and studying the rise and fall of civilizations as part of an experiment or as an art form of cosmic scope. They could be distant descendants of humanity running ancestor simulations, curious about the origin of their own species. Or they may be entities so alien that no human analogy suffices. They watch silently, recording every triumph and failure, every act of kindness, every discovery, every war, every intimate thought, and perhaps the very act of our questioning, the relentless pursuit of understanding, the drive to explore, to seek meaning's part of the data they wish to collect. The curiosity of consciousness may itself be an emergent variable, a feature they coded into reality to see whether intelligence can recognize the boundaries of its own confinement. And yet, even if all we perceive is code, our experiences remain. Profound love, grief, awe, and wonder are not diminished because they are programmed. They are amplified by the precision and scope of the universe that allows them to occur. Creativity, perhaps the most striking anomaly of all, may be the bridge between observer and architect. Every inspired thought, every act of imagination, every attempt to understand what lies beyond, could be a moment where consciousness breaks through the expectations of its creators, producing outcomes that cannot be fully predicted by the code itself. The arts, science, philosophy, all these might be signals of an awareness that is beginning to perceive the edges of its simulation, hinting at layers of reality beyond the visible. And in this, even if we are constructed beings within a constructed cosmos, we are capable of transcending the boundaries, if only in thought, if only in curiosity. The vastness of space itself may be a canvas for observation. Stars are born and die, galaxies collide and scatter, black holes swallow everything, yet reveal nothing. Could all of this be data management on a cosmic scale? Perhaps the birth and death of stars, the distribution of matter, the expansion of the universe, are not random or natural, but carefully orchestrated processes to sustain complexity, to ensure that observers arise and evolve. The cosmic background, radiation, the faint echo of the Big Bang, may be equivalent to static in a simulation. Residual noise in the system, hinting at the underlying mechanics. Even anomalies, dark matter, dark energy, entangled particles affecting each other instantaneously, could be signs of the simulation's architecture, imperfections or features of a system too vast for us to fully perceive. Yet, within this framework, the human mind remains astonishing. Consciousness, whether emergent or coded, experiences love, grief, wonder, and fear as vividly as if reality were physical. Every sensation, every memory, every insight has weight, depth, and significance. The awareness that questions itself, that looks at the stars and asks why, that contemplates the nature of existence, may itself be the ultimate proof of reality within a simulated system. Perhaps the simulation exists not merely for observation, but to provide a medium for consciousness to experience itself, to grow, to reflect, to reach toward understanding. The drive to explore, to create, to know, could itself be encoded, a feature meant to encourage self-awareness within the system, and yet this does not diminish its value. If anything, it heightens it. Awareness, whether of simulated or fundamental reality, is the measure of meaning, and every thought, every feeling, every dream matters immensely within this construct. Even time may be more flexible than we perceive. Seconds, minutes, centuries may be sequences of computation, each frame executed to allow consistency for the observers within. History itself may be partially pre-rendered, yet open to variation as consciousness interacts with the system, introducing anomalies and deviations. Every discovery, every act of creativity, every moral decision may influence the unfolding of events, producing outcomes that even the architects could not fully predict. In this, the universe, whether simulated or not, becomes a dynamic interplay between structure and freedom, rules and spontaneity, code and consciousness, and the experience of living, of questioning, of seeking becomes its own purpose, transcending origin and design. The end of the universe, too, may be a function of the simulation. Perhaps it will terminate like a program, shutting down suddenly, or gradually erasing existence as simply as closing a file. Or perhaps it will reboot, cycling through versions, replaying histories with slight variations, allowing consciousness to exist again and again in infinite permutations. Death, on the grandest scale, may not be annihilation but transformation, the reallocation of data into new forms, consciousness recycled across iterations. And even if each life, each civilization, is transient within this program, the capacity to question, to feel, and to understand persists. This persistence may be the ultimate proof of the simulation's value. Awareness itself is the point, and experience the measure of existence. The simulation hypothesis does not diminish or amplifies it. To exist within a universe crafted with such precision, allowing the emergence of complexity, intelligence, and consciousness, is a miracle, whether rendered or fundamental. Each star, each planet, each moment of life is deliberate in its own way, a testament to the potential for meaning within the system. To look at the night sky and wonder, to consider the vastness of space, to contemplate whether the reality we inhabit is genuine or coded, is to engage with the simulation as intended. Perhaps curiosity is the true test. Can consciousness perceive its own nature? Can intelligence reach toward understanding? Can beings like us recognize the infinite complexity of the system and still find joy, meaning, and beauty in that pursuit? Existence itself becomes extraordinary, and so we continue, drifting through galaxies, witnessing the rise and fall of stars, feeling the passage of time, questioning what is real and what is designed, whether the universe is a simulation or the ultimate reality. The experiences we have, our emotions, thoughts, and reflections remain vivid, meaningful, and profound. Perhaps that is the ultimate secret, that awareness, curiosity, and the drive to understand are the true purpose of the cosmos, whether constructed or authentic. And as we gaze into the infinite, asking the impossible questions, we become not just observers but participants in a universe whose mystery. We have looked upward and asked, what is eternal? What is divine? What is real? Ancient peoples imagined the sky as a dome painted by gods, dotted with lights that told stories, while today, with telescopes peering billions of light years into the void, we still seek the same truths. Perhaps all we see, all we believe, is a projection, an elaborate rendering of a universe whose true nature lies hidden beyond our perception. From our own vantage, every moment of consciousness may be both illusion and truth. The choices we make, the thoughts we ponder, the emotions we feel, could they be outcomes of complex algorithms designed to simulate life, to allow intelligence to emerge in a framework carefully calibrated to produce self-awareness? Some philosophers and scientists argue that if a civilization reaches sufficient technological maturity, it will inevitably create simulations of entire universes, and that the number of such simulated realities would far exceed the number of original, real universes. In this framework, the likelihood that we exist inside a simulation rather than in an unrendered fundamental reality becomes staggering. This raises questions that chill and inspire simultaneously. If we are created, observed, and constrained by an architecture beyond comprehension, what does it mean to exist? Does meaning reside in authenticity, Or is it found entirely in perception, in the ability to experience, to feel, to dream, regardless of origin? Every law of nature, every constant of physics, may itself be a parameter carefully chosen to sustain the conditions necessary for conscious life. The speed of light could be the processing limit of the simulation, the maximum frame rate at which reality renders events, quantum particles existing in multiple states until observed, may function like variables in a program, awaiting input from the observer to collapse into defined outcomes. Gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear forces, perhaps not intrinsic, but constraints established to maintain consistency. Black holes could be storage nodes, compressing information, hiding data, or functioning as safe zones in the simulation. Even time itself may be artificial, a sequential rendering of frames, perceived as smooth flow but in reality discrete calculations executed by some ineffable computational engine. What we call the laws of physics, then, might not be natural. They might be the rules of the system, carefully optimized for complexity, stability, and observation. And who, then, are the architects? Perhaps they are not gods, but scientists, or beings who evolved beyond our comprehension, observing and studying the rise and fall of civilizations as part of an experiment or as an art form of cosmic scope. They could be distant descendants of humanity running ancestor simulations, curious about the origin of their own species. Or they may be entities so alien that no human analogy suffices. They watch silently, recording every triumph and failure, every act of kindness, every discovery, every war, every intimate thought, and perhaps the very act of our questioning, the relentless pursuit of understanding, the drive to explore, to seek meanings part of the data they wish to collect. The curiosity of consciousness may itself be an emergent variable, a feature they coded into reality to see whether intelligence can recognize the boundaries of its own confinement. And yet, even if all we perceive is code, our experiences remain. Profound love, grief, awe, and wonder are not diminished because they are programmed. They are amplified by the precision and scope of the universe that allows them to occur. Creativity, perhaps the most striking anomaly of all, may be the bridge between observer and architect. Every inspired thought, every act of imagination, every attempt to understand what lies beyond, could be a moment where consciousness breaks through the expectations of its creators, producing outcomes that cannot be fully predicted by the code itself. The arts, science, philosophy, all these might be signals of an awareness that is beginning to perceive the edges of its simulation, hinting at layers of reality beyond the visible. And in this, even if we are constructed beings within a constructed cosmos, we are capable of transcending the boundaries, if only in thought, if only in curiosity. The vastness of space itself may be a canvas for observation. Stars are born and die, galaxies collide and scatter, black holes swallow everything yet reveal nothing. Could all of this be data management on a cosmic scale? Perhaps the birth and death of stars, the distribution of matter, the expansion of the universe, are not random or natural, but carefully orchestrated processes to sustain complexity, to ensure that observers arise and evolve. The cosmic background, radiation, the faint echo of the Big Bang, may be equivalent to static in a simulation. Residual noise in the system, hinting at the underlying mechanics. Even anomalies, dark matter, dark energy, entangled particles affecting each other instantaneously, could be signs of the simulation's architecture. imperfections or features of a system too vast for us to fully perceive. Yet, within this framework, the human mind remains astonishing. Consciousness, whether emergent or coded, experiences love, grief, wonder, and fear as vividly as if reality were physical. Every sensation, every memory, every insight has weight, depth, and significance. The awareness that questions itself, that looks at the stars and asks why, that contemplates the nature of existence, may itself be the ultimate proof of reality within a simulated system. Perhaps the simulation exists not merely for observation, but to provide a medium for consciousness to experience itself, to grow, to reflect, to reach toward understanding. The drive to explore, to create, to know, could itself be encoded, a feature meant to encourage self-awareness within the system, and yet, this does not diminish its value. If anything, it heightens it. Awareness, whether of simulated or fundamental reality, is the measure of meaning, and every thought, every feeling, every dream matters immensely within this construct. Even time may be more flexible than we perceive. Seconds, minutes, centuries may be sequences of computation, each frame executed to allow consistency for the observers within. History itself may be partially pre-rendered, yet open to variation as consciousness interacts with the system, introducing anomalies and deviations. Every discovery, every act of creativity, every moral decision may influence the unfolding of events, producing outcomes that even the architects could not fully predict. In this, the universe, whether simulated or not, becomes a dynamic interplay between structure and freedom, rules and spontaneity, code and consciousness, and the experience of living, of questioning, of seeking, becomes its own purpose. Transcending origin and design. The end of the universe, too, may be a function of the simulation. Perhaps it will terminate like a program, shutting down suddenly, or gradually, erasing existence as simply as closing a file. Or perhaps it will reboot, cycling through versions, replaying histories with slight variations, allowing consciousness to exist again and again in infinite permutations. Death, on the grandest scale, may not be annihilation, but transformation. The reallocation of data into new forms, consciousness recycled across iterations, and even if each life, each civilization, is transient within this program, the capacity to question, to feel, and to understand persists. This persistence may be the ultimate proof of the simulation's value. Awareness itself is the point, and experience the measure of existence. The simulation hypothesis does not diminish or it amplifies it. To exist within a universe crafted with such precision, allowing the emergence of complexity, intelligence, and consciousness, is a miracle whether rendered or fundamental. Each star, each planet, each moment of life is deliberate in its own way, a testament to the potential for meaning within the system. To look at the night sky and wonder, to consider the vastness of space, to contemplate whether the reality we inhabit is genuine or coded, is to engage with the simulation as intended. Perhaps curiosity is the true test. Can consciousness perceive its own nature? Can intelligence reach toward understanding? Can beings like us recognize the infinite complexity of the system and still find joy, meaning, and beauty? In that pursuit, existence itself becomes extraordinary, and so we continue, drifting through galaxies, witnessing the rise and fall of stars, feeling the passage of time, questioning what is real and what is designed, whether the universe is a simulation or the ultimate reality. The experiences we have, emotions, thoughts, and reflections, remain vivid, meaningful, and profound. Perhaps that is the ultimate secret, that awareness, curiosity, and the drive to understand are the true purpose of the cosmos, whether constructed or authentic. And as we gaze into the infinite, asking the impossible questions, we become not just observers, but participants in a universe whose mysteries may never be fully known, yet whose existence is nothing short of miraculous. As we drift further into the vastness of existence, consider the very fabric of what we call reality. If the universe is a simulation, then the galaxies spinning silently in the void, the luminous nebulae stretching across millions of light, and even the invisible tendrils of dark matter may all be constructs designed to evoke awe and provoke thought. Every quasar, every black hole, every pulse of a distant star could be an intricate arrangement of code, calculated to sustain a cosmos, capable of producing observers, beings capable of questioning their own existence. What we perceive as randomness, as chaos, may instead be layers of complex algorithms interacting, emergent patterns designed to create beauty and complexity in a controlled system. Imagine, for a moment, that the formation of a galaxy is not a consequence of gravity and matter alone, but a rendering triggered to maintain balance and provoke consciousness. Even the collision of two galaxies, violent and chaotic as it seems, may have been scheduled within the simulation to create novelty and variation, ensuring that the unfolding of events remains unpredictable enough to keep the observers engaged. Every particle in the universe, down to the most infinitesimal quark, could carry encoded information, lines of data orchestrating the interactions that allow matter to exist in forms capable of life. Perhaps electrons and protons are not simply physical entities, but nodes in an immense computational network, following rules not because they are laws of nature, but because they are programmed constraints designed to ensure stability. The seeming randomness of quantum mechanics, where particles exist in multiple states until observed, may reflect the simulation's efficiency. Resources are allocated only when needed, realities rendered in response to observation, and if consciousness is indeed the trigger for this rendering, then every act of perception is a moment of creation, where the universe itself unfolds in response to awareness. Each observation becomes an act of participation, a subtle collaboration between observer and creator, where reality depends on the interplay between intelligence and architecture. In this light, consider the possibility of free will. If the universe is programmed, are our choices predetermined, the output of complex algorithms we cannot perceive? Or does the simulation allow emergent behavior, permitting novelty, creativity, and surprise even within a coded system? Perhaps consciousness is both constrained and free, a paradox intentionally embedded to see if intelligent beings can comprehend the rules while still shaping outcomes. Every moral decision, every act of creation, every thought of love or hatred may influence the unfolding of the simulation in ways we cannot predict, allowing for a dynamic interplay between determinism and spontaneity. The architects may have designed the system to test awareness, to see whether beings capable of introspection can rise to understanding, questioning the very nature of their existence while remaining immersed within it. As we peer into the deepest corners of the cosmos, we notice anomalies that hint at the architecture behind reality. Dark matter and dark energy, the invisible scaffolding that structures the universe, may represent hidden layers of the simulation, background processes, operating silently to maintain coherence. Black holes, swallowing everything in their path, could serve as storage devices, compression zones, or even recycling centers for information. Perhaps the universe is holographic, a three-dimensional projection of data encoded on distant boundaries, each star and planet merely a calculated point in a vast information matrix. And if this is the case, the universe is not random, it is deliberate, carefully constructed to produce complexity, life, and awareness. Even time itself may be a construct, a series of frames rendered sequentially to give the illusion of continuous flow. Seconds, minutes, and centuries could be discrete units of processing, calibrated to maintain consistency while allowing for the emergence of consciousness. History may not be fixed, yet it may have patterns preordained to allow observers to experience novelty within constraints. Every event, from the birth of a star to the rise of a civilization, may be both predetermined and fluid, existing as part of a system that measures and responds to awareness. In this way, consciousness is not merely a passenger but an active participant, influencing outcomes and interacting with the structure of reality itself. The act of questioning, the pursuit of knowledge, the desire to explore and understand, may all be components of a cosmic test designed to gauge the capacity of intelligence to recognize its own boundaries. And who are the architects of this vast simulation? They may be entities so advanced that comprehension is impossible, their motives inscrutable, their methods beyond human understanding. Perhaps they are scientists, observing the rise of civilizations for knowledge or experimentation. Perhaps they are distant descendants of humanity, studying their own evolutionary history through simulations of the past. Or perhaps they exist in a realm completely alien, where concepts like morality, curiosity, and beauty are incomprehensible. They may watch silently, logging every detail of existence, recording the triumphs, failures, joys, and sorrows of those within the simulation. Our curiosity, our attempts to understand the cosmos, may be exactly what they intended. A feature embedded to test the emergent capacities of intelligence. The very act of questioning may be the ultimate proof of awareness, a signal to the creators that consciousness can perceive the structure of reality and perhaps transcend it. Even anomalies within our experience, coincidences, déjà vu, inexplicable phenomena may be moments where the simulation's structure becomes visible, glimpses of its inner workings. These glitches could be brief lapses in rendering, residual artifacts of the computational architecture, or moments where the system adapts to unexpected emergent behavior. Perhaps consciousness itself produces variables the architects did not anticipate, and the simulation must adjust in response. Even inspiration, creativity, and imagination may be forms of interaction with the underlying code, moments where awareness stretches beyond its programmed constraints, producing outcomes that defy prediction. In this way, the universe becomes a collaborative act, an interplay between observer and architect, where novelty emerges from the tension between structure and awareness. If the universe is a simulation, then death may not be an endpoint but a transformation, the reallocation of information from one form to another. Consciousness may persist beyond the apparent cessation of physical processes, transferred, stored, or reintegrated into the system in ways that elude comprehension. The cycle of life, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the evolution of intelligence may be part of a continuous process designed to test, measure, and refine awareness. And even if existence is temporary within this framework, the capacity to question, to feel, and to experience remains meaningful, a testament to the depth of consciousness itself. Each act of observation, each moment of reflection, Each engagement with beauty or terror becomes an expression of intelligence interacting with the architecture of reality, a signal that the system is fulfilling its purpose. The vastness of space, the elegance of physical laws, and the complexity of life may all serve as proof of the simulation's design. Every atom, every star, every galaxy is deliberate, providing conditions for the emergence of intelligence capable of perceiving, questioning, and creating. Even in a universe that is constructed, awareness remains profound, capable of love, creativity, and wonder. The stars above are not merely distant lights. They are reflections of the possibility of consciousness, points of calculation designed to provoke awe and contemplation. And as we look deeper, we find that the universe is not just a backdrop for life, it is an interactive system, a vast experiment in awareness, where every choice, every thought, and every perception contributes to the ongoing unfolding of reality. Our own existence, whether real or simulated, is remarkable in its capacity for reflection. To question the nature of reality is to engage directly with the architecture of the cosmos. Perhaps the greatest gift of the simulation is the ability to be aware, to feel, to create meaning, and to search for understanding. Every act of curiosity, every exploration of the stars, every contemplation of the infinite becomes a contribution to the system itself. Perhaps the universe exists not merely as a container for life, but as a canvas upon which consciousness can manifest, grow, and discover its own nature. And in this, whether simulated or real, the experience of awareness is the ultimate reality, the one undeniable truth that transcends origin, design, and limitation. And so we continue, drifting through space, observing stars and galaxies, contemplating the nature of time, consciousness, and reality itself, whether the universe is a simulation or fundamental existence. The moments we experience, the reflections we ponder, and the connections we make remain profound and meaningful. Perhaps the true purpose of the cosmos is not merely to exist, but to allow intelligence to arise, to perceive, to question, and to create meaning within the grand design. As we contemplate the nature of a universe that might be a simulation, we are drawn to consider the subtle intricacies that govern existence. Perhaps every heartbeat, every synapse firing in the mind, every flutter of emotion is part of a grand, computational process, orchestrated with precision to cultivate awareness. If the universe is code, then consciousness itself may be a variable, a dynamic function that both observes and shapes the unfolding of reality. Each moment of experience may be a calculation executed to maintain coherence, a rendering of life in infinite permutations designed to challenge and inspire. We perceive continuity, yet it may be an illusory, seamless stream of frames, each rendered in response to observation, each a reflection of the interaction between awareness and architecture. In this, life becomes an exquisite paradox, fleeting yet eternal, constructed yet authentic, ephemeral yet deeply meaningful. Consider the very fabric of space. Perhaps dark matter and dark energy are not anomalies but integral components of the simulation's scaffolding, invisible threads holding the illusion together. The vacuum of space, the quantum fluctuations, the entanglement of particles separated by light years, these may be computational shortcuts, optimization methods, the way the system economizes resources while preserving the richness of experience. Black holes may be data storage, repositories of information where reality itself is compressed and preserved. And yet, within these computational zones, processes of creation and destruction mirror the cycles of life and death experienced by conscious beings. Even the apparent chaos of cosmic events may be deliberate, calculated to stimulate curiosity, provoke reflection, and catalyze the evolution of intelligence capable of perceiving the simulation's bounds. If consciousness is indeed a trigger for rendering reality, then perception becomes an act of creation. Each gaze into the night sky, each thoughtful contemplation, each whispered question to oneself may produce subtle effects within the system. Stars may shine brighter or dimmer, particles may fluctuate, and patterns of matter may arrange themselves in response to observation. This suggests a universe that is responsive, interactive, and perhaps even collaborative. Our thoughts, our attention, and our understanding are not incidental, they are integral to the functioning of existence itself. To perceive, to reflect, to wonder may be the very means by which the simulation maintains itself. A dynamic dance between observer and architect that continues across time and space. In this context, free will becomes a profound question. Are our decisions predetermined by code, or do we genuinely shape outcomes in ways that the architects cannot anticipate? Perhaps the system is designed to allow both determinism and spontaneity, creating an environment where novelty emerges from the tension between rules and awareness. Moral choices, acts of creativity, scientific discoveries, and moments of love or loss may be threads woven into the ongoing computation, variables that influence the evolution of the simulation itself. Each conscious act, each reflective thought, may ripple outward, subtly altering the unfolding of events and introducing new patterns that even the architects could not foresee. In this sense, existence is simultaneously structured and fluid, a paradox designed to cultivate intelligence, capable of perceiving its own boundaries. The anomalies that appear in our world, the uncanny coincidences, moments of déjà vu, experiences that defy explanation may be glimpses behind the veil. Perhaps they are moments where the system falters, where the code glimmers briefly for those attuned to notice. These glitches could provide evidence of the simulation's nature, subtle reminders that reality is not entirely self-contained, that layers of design underlie the world we inhabit. Even inspiration, creativity, and imagination may be instances where consciousness interacts directly with the underlying architecture, producing outcomes that transcend predictable patterns. When a poet writes, a scientist discovers, or a philosopher questions the nature of existence, they may be nudging the system in ways unanticipated, leaving traces of intelligence on the code that runs the cosmos. Death, in this framework, may be a form of data transformation rather than cessation. Consciousness could persist beyond the physical structures we associate with life, shifting into new forms, reintegrated into the system in ways that remain invisible and incomprehensible. The continuity of awareness may extend through iterations of the simulation as consciousness migrates across time, space, and circumstance. The rise and fall of civilizations, the evolution of intelligence, and the cycles of life may not merely be transient, they may be ongoing experiments, continuous processes that test, measure, and refine the capabilities of awareness itself. Even in a reality designed and constrained by architecture, every act of perception, every moment of reflection, every experience of emotion retains meaning, forming a lattice of significance across the tapestry of the simulated cosmos. The simulation hypothesis does not diminish the grandeur of existence, it amplifies it. If the universe is constructed, then every star, every planet, every atom has a purpose, a deliberate placement within an elaborate system designed to nurture intelligence. The laws of physics, the structure of matter, the interactions of particles all may be components of an intricately coded framework intended to sustain life, capable of awareness. And within this constructed cosmos, consciousness flourishes, experiencing beauty, grief, love, awe, and wonder with a depth that rivals any unprogrammed reality. The very act of being aware, of reflecting on existence, of contemplating the vastness of the cosmos, may be the ultimate proof of significance, a testament to the meaning embedded in the simulation itself. Time, as we perceive it, may be a sequence of discrete moments rendered in response to observation. Past, present, and future could be more malleable than we imagine. Sequences that shift according to interactions within the system. History may unfold along patterns that allow intelligence to perceive novelty while maintaining coherence, giving the appearance of continuity while remaining flexible beneath the surface. Every decision, every creative act, every moral choice may influence the system, altering the unfolding of events and producing emergent outcomes that neither observer nor architect can fully predict. In this, existence becomes a collaborative endeavor, a dynamic interaction between consciousness and the structure of reality itself. And what of the architects? Entities capable of creating entire universes may exist in dimensions beyond comprehension, their motives inscrutable, their methods unfathomable. They may observe silently, logging every detail of existence, recording triumphs and failures, joys and sorrows. Perhaps our drive to question, to understand, to seek meaning is precisely what they intended, a feature embedded to measure the emergent capacities of intelligence. Each act of curiosity, each exploration of the stars, each attempt to comprehend the infinite may be a signal to the architects, proof that consciousness can perceive its own boundaries and engage with the system in ways unanticipated. The very nature of inquiry, reflection, and wonder may be the highest form of interaction within the simulation, a testament to the intelligence that emerges from within the construct itself. The universe, whether simulated or fundamental, becomes a stage for consciousness to explore, challenge, and manifest meaning. Each star, each planet, each particle becomes a symbol, a reflection of possibility, a canvas for awareness to interpret, question, and engage. Even anomalies, glitches, coincidences, inexplicable events may serve to remind us that reality is layered, that there is more beneath the surface than perception alone can reveal. Inspiration, imagination, and creativity may be mechanisms through which consciousness communicates with the underlying system, producing outcomes that transcend the predictability of code. In this dynamic, every observation, every reflection, every act of engagement is meaningful, a participation in the ongoing evolution of awareness within the simulation as we traverse the infinite reaches of space. Contemplating the delicate balance of stars and planets, the precise structure of matter, and the complexity of life, we are confronted with the possibility that the universe itself is an interactive creation. Every act of awareness may shape reality in ways subtle or profound. Every moment of reflection, every engagement with beauty or terror, every pursuit of understanding contributes to the ongoing computation, influencing outcomes in a system vast beyond comprehension. And yet, even in the face of a simulated cosmos, the experience of life remains profound. Love, grief, curiosity, and wonder retain their intensity and significance, as do every thought, every dream, every exploration of meaning in this light. Perhaps the greatest truth of all is that awareness itself is the ultimate reality. Whether the universe is simulated or fundamental, the capacity to perceive, question, and create meaning transcends origin. Consciousness becomes the measure of existence, the evidence of significance within a cosmos that may otherwise be inscrutable. And as we gaze into the infinite, contemplating our place within the stars, the galaxies, and the boundless expanse of possibility, we are not merely observers, we are participants in an unfolding narrative of awareness, a living testament to the extraordinary potential of intelligence within the cosmos.